Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danielle Neal. I serve as Policy Counsel at Collier Collective, and I will be moderating today's event. Thank you so much for joining today's virtual event for the introduction of the Reentry Employment Opportunities Act. This bill would codify the existing Reentry Employment Opportunities, or REO program, at the Department of Labor, which provides grant funding to support effective reentry and workforce development services nationwide. Please note again that today's event will be recorded. The official recording will be sent to webinar registrants. I would first like to thank Senators Peters, Portman, Congressman Danny K. Davis, and Congressman Bill Johnson for co-leading the introduction of the REO Act. We will hear remarks from them about how the REO Act will help support second chances and why hiring individuals with criminal legal histories is important. We will also hear from Victor Dickson, the president of SAFER Foundation, who will introduce SAFER and its work with the REO program. Most importantly, Victor will introduce a short video by a grantee of one of SAFER Foundation's training programs and was supported in part by REO grant funding. Finally, we will also host a moderated discussion featuring some speakers today, which include Victor Dickson, president and CEO of SAFER Foundation. SAFER Foundation is an almost 50-year-old nonprofit headquartered in Chicago, Illinois, that provides reentry and workforce development services. SAFER has been a REO grantee for a long time. Jeff Korzenik is going to be our next speaker. He is chief investment strategist at one of the nation's largest commercial banks and author of Untapped Talent, a new book describing the business case for hiring people with criminal records. And lastly, we hope that Congressman Danny K. Davis can also join our moderated discussion. We are particularly excited that this virtual introduction is taking place during Second Chance Month, as it is important to stress that people who have criminal legal histories deserve second chances. 1 in 3 adults in the United States has a criminal arrest or conviction record. The REO Act ensures that people with criminal legal histories do not get left behind during this critical time of economic recovery by ensuring that people with criminal legal histories are trained and credentialed in industries that lead to career pathways. The REO Act will also help meet the needs of local businesses and employers that need qualified, credentialed employees now in an increasing numbers as the nation starts going through an economic recovery. We are so thankful that Senator Peters, Portman, and Congressman Davis and Congressman Johnson are committed to investing in second chances on a bipartisan and bicameral basis by introducing the REO Act. We are so thankful for you all joining us today. And now I am pleased to introduce some remarks from Senator Gary Peters.
Hello, I'm U.S. Senator Gary Peters, and I'd like to thank Victor Dickson and the entire team at the SAFER Foundation for all of their efforts, along with the other speakers joining this important event. For too long, men and women who have paid their debt to society have been denied chances to secure a good job and begin a new chapter in their lives. That is why I'm proud to partner last year and again this Congress with Senator Rob Portman on the Reentry Employment Opportunities Act. This bipartisan bill would strengthen Department of Labor reentry programs across the country, which supports national, regional, and local organizations that administer skills training programs. These programs provide critical opportunities for returning citizens to be able to have a smooth transition back into society and learn the skills needed to secure good paying jobs. It would strengthen existing skills training and apprenticeship programs. I'm hopeful that we can advance this legislation in the Senate soon. As we work to emerge from this pandemic and the unprecedented economic crisis, we have a real opportunity to help ensure Americans who have served their time a second chance to contribute to their communities. Thank you again for all that you do to provide critical services for returning citizens, improve reentry outcomes, and help them stay out of the criminal justice system. I look forward to continuing working with you in the months and years ahead.
Thanks so much for those remarks, Senator Peters. And now it is with my great pleasure to welcome Congressman Danny K. Davis, the grandfather of reentry, to give some remarks. A few words about Congressman Davis. He has been a long time and persistent advocate for social justice, reentry, and criminal justice reform. In the 110th Congress, Congressman Davis, along with Senator Portman, introduced the Second Chance Act, which was signed into law on April 9, 2008, over 13 years ago. This landmark legislation established the Department of Justice Second Chance Act grant program that helped thousands of individuals receive reentry services and supports. Congressman Davis also has been instrumental in developing and advocating for funding for job access programs for individuals who are reentering. Thank you so much for joining us today, Congressman Davis, and for all of your work to improve the lives of individuals and families who have embarked within the criminal justice system. And I will spotlight Congressman Davis.
Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, it is indeed.
Thank you so much, Congressman. I am having a difficult time trying to spotlight you.
Well, let's see.
Turn on the video, please. Thank you.
Do you have your video on, Congressman?
All right, let's it's taken a second.
Yes, no problem at all. Thank you so much.
I think we should be fine now.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the kind things that you said about me, especially this grandfather business. I don't know if I've been called a grandfather enough, but I am indeed delighted. I am delighted to be here with all of the participants. It's good to follow Senator Peters from our neighboring state of Michigan, and of course, my colleague, Representative Johnson and Senator Portman. I also want to commend the SAFER Foundation and other groups and organizations like SAFER who have taken space on this issue and have led the movement towards the kind of interest, the kind of attention, and the kind of action that need to be taken. Notwithstanding serious efforts towards criminal justice reform, the United States remains the most incarcerated nation in the world. But now, fortunately, many Americans are beginning to see, and others have already seen, the light. There's recognition that it does our nation no good to continue the practice of mass incarceration. While we are 5% of the world's population, we're 20% of the world's prison population. Fortunately, in around 2000, a group of legislators, not-for-profits, and faith groups, aided by the Soros Foundation and others, began serious discussions about mass incarceration and its impact on American life. Of course, I was a part of those discussions, as was then Representative Rob Portman of Ohio, who went on to become the U.S. Trade Representative Senator from Ohio. After tremendous bipartisan work, both the House and the Senate passed, and in 2007, President Bush signed into law the Second Chance Act. And since that time, $15 billion appropriated, 1,500 grants in 48 states. There's now every kind of program that one can imagine. But let us know that Second Chance is more than a grant. It's more than a program. It has become and is fast becoming a concept, a philosophy, a movement, a way of thinking, a way of acting. So today I am proud to be here with my colleague, Representative Bill Johnson from Ohio, of course, Senator Portman and Senator Peters, to announce introduction of Reentry Employment Opportunities Act of 2021. This act will codify the existing reentry program of the U.S. Department of Labor, which will provide training and job connection, job placement to eligible youth and adults under the age of 25 who have criminal records, have been or in fact incarcerated, and are seeking ways to return to society as productive citizens who become assets rather than liabilities. So I am pleased to be a part of this, and thank you very much. It's now my great pleasure to take this opportunity to present on video my longtime friend and associate, one who has worked in the vineyard, as we call it, without thinking about party or thinking about position, but thinking about the needs of our country and the needs of people. One who recognized that there is much wasted talent, wasted individuals who can be restored, who can be renewed, who can be reintegrated back into normal life. So I'm pleased to introduce the video of my good friend and associate, Senator Rob Portman of Ohio.
Hi, I'm U.S. Senator Rob Portman. I'm pleased to be joining the Safer Foundation to celebrate Second Chance Month and talk about what we're doing in Congress to help reduce recidivism rates and help people who have spent time in the justice system get back on their feet. When it comes to helping formerly incarcerated individuals overcome their past mistakes and reenter society, we've come a long way over the last decade. About 10 years ago, I co-authored bipartisan legislation with Representative Danny Davis of Illinois called the Second Chance Act, which authorizes federal grants to state and local reentry programs. A few years ago, we reauthorized the Second Chance Act as part of the First Step Act, renewing and strengthening this law by adding nonprofit organizations as eligible grant recipients and requiring rigorous audits to ensure that federal dollars are wisely spent. Since 2009, more than 800 Second Chance Grant Acts award have been made, and last year we secured $100 million in funding, a record. I've seen the results of the Second Chance Act firsthand at reentry programs all across Ohio, from Pathways in Columbus to the Restored Citizens Network to Muskingum County to places all over our state, and they're very successful. But we still have a long way to go. We know that about 95% of those who are incarcerated will be released someday, and more than half of the people released from prison each year are rearrested again and end up back in the system within a few years. We need to break that cycle of recidivism by reconnecting people to their communities. And one of the best ways we can do that is through helping them gain the skills they need to reenter the workforce. Also dealing with their substance abuse issues and mental health issues. But with regard to skills training, right now I'm working on bipartisan legislation called the Reentry Employment Opportunities Act, or the REO Act, to do just that. Along with my colleague, Senator Gary Peters of Michigan, I've introduced this legislation to make permanent the Labor Department's Reentry Employment Opportunities Grant Program, which currently exists as a pilot program authorized under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. This REO program supports national, regional, and local skills training organizations that provide outstanding opportunities for returning citizens to get the skills that will help them find both good-paying jobs and the stability and purpose that comes from a career. The REO program has been successful, but right now it does not have a dedicated funding stream to support its important mission. I believe it's critical we make the REO program permanent so that more folks reentering society after time in the justice system can get the helping hand they need to reenter the workforce and break that cycle of recidivism. I look forward to getting the Reentry Employment Opportunities Act passed soon and would love your help in doing that so that we can ensure more individuals get the skills they need to succeed. I certainly appreciate the support of the Safer Foundation in that important effort. Together, we can help ensure returning citizens get secure jobs and are able to live up to their God-given potential. Thank you.
Thanks so much to Congressman Davis and to Senator Portman for their great words and remarks regarding the importance of the REO Act. And it was now with my great pleasure for me to introduce Victor Dickson, who is the CEO and president of Safer Foundation. Victor will give us some remarks in regard to what Safer Foundation does and how they help folks who have criminal legal histories. Thank you, Victor.
Hello, and thanks, Danielle, and good afternoon. Safer Foundation is delighted to support the Reentry Employment Opportunities Act of 2021. And we want to commend Senator Peters, Senator Portman, Congressman Bill Johnson, and my Congressman, Representative Danny K. Davis, for advancing this legislation. We're also delighted to see the robust support for justice system reform expressed by President Biden in his Second Chance Month proclamation. Safer Foundation is a 50-year-old nonprofit organization that provides comprehensive services, both pre-release from jail and prison, and post-release reentry and workforce development services for individuals with criminal legal histories. Safer Foundation serves more than 5,000 people per year, and we have been a REO recipient for more than a decade, helping thousands of people with the funding that's been made available. Through our proven holistic programs and services, we help people navigate the complexities of reentry and get equipped and prepared for career pathway success. Our approach begins with the basics of reentry, such as getting a state ID, clothing, a cell phone, transportation support, housing, etc. Then we move into the critical areas of academic education, earning a high school diploma, vocational credentials, job readiness and placement, behavioral health services, violence prevention services, and finally, our policy and advocacy work is focused on eliminating barriers to reentry and creating new opportunities for our clients. SAFER uses a demand-driven model for workforce development we call the SAFER Demand Skills Collaborative. We work closely with employers in industries with high demand for labor, including skilled labor. That includes banking, healthcare, manufacturing, and IT. On the employer side, we assist businesses with developing a talent pool that includes people with criminal histories. Our technical consulting teams assist employers with modifying their recruiting strategies and onboarding processes and revising their human resource policies and practices. And then our workforce development group partners very closely with vocational credential training organizations to really help people earn industry-recognized portable credentials. During COVID-19, we were challenged with supporting people being released early from prison and jail in Illinois. And that was done to really alleviate overcrowding and try to avoid the pandemic spreading out of control within the prisons and jails. COVID-19 created an opportunity for us to begin the critical pre-release planning work with the prison system and the jails to ensure that those given early release receive services immediately upon returning to the community. However, our services that we started during COVID need to be continued. The pandemic demonstrated that even more support is needed for people being released from jail and prison. So the most effective services are the ones that we've tried to put together that are comprehensive, holistic, and really include reentry navigation support, helping people deal with the myriad of issues that they face when they return to community. I am, again, so delighted to support this new legislation, to codify and make permanent the REO funding. And I really appeal to all of you listening to this session to support this legislation as well. If you're in other states, to really contact your senators and your congressmen and women and ask them to support the passage of this very important act. So I want to thank you for joining. And I think there's no better way for us to understand the impact of REO, of the funding, and of the programs that are being provided all over the country than to hear it firsthand from someone who's benefited from it. So I'd like to introduce you to one of the Safer Foundation clients that has been a recipient of these services. So we're going to hear from Charles right now.
I actually got my CDL back in 2018. Well, actually, let's say the beginning of 2019. It was like kind of right in between that time. You know, it took me a while at first to kind of find a place that would help me get my CDL. And like literally everywhere that I looked, the cost was a little bit high. You know, I initially wanted to go on ahead and get my CDL because I was working at Taco Bell and I saw somebody else that was driving and they looked like they were around the same age as me. So I asked them, and when they told me they, you know, had been through some of the same things as far as, you know, background wise, you know, been incarcerated before and had, you know, felonies or misdemeanors on their record. I was really interested in trying to get it because I wanted to step up from where I was at. So I ended up, well, I worked 2 jobs at the time, and the second job that I was working, I actually had a friend there, and he was the one that told me about SAFER, and he told me about the class and how they would take care of the CDL class and also, you know, give me a stipend while I was there. So I've been driving pretty much ever since I got my CDL, ever since I graduated from the class. And as a matter of fact, SAFER hooked me up with the first company that I actually, you know, was working with as soon as I got done with the class. And from there, I branched up to where I'm at now. I've been doing this job for the past 2 years. And it's been great. It's one of the jobs that I love, to be honest. It's just, I like meeting people. I like, you know, talking with people. So it's definitely one of the jobs I enjoy. And I mean, without SAFER, I probably wouldn't have been able to get this far. I'm driving locally right now. I did, you know, at first I wanted to try driving over the road and stuff like that, but because of my situation, I was on parole at the time. I couldn't leave the state, so, you know, during parole, they don't allow it. So I couldn't drive over the road. So I ended up finding local jobs, and the local jobs that I had, actually, the first one, they did local and regional, but, you know, because of the situation I was in, they were willing to accept me in and allow me to do local. So I like doing local. It would probably be cool to go over the road. But yeah, doing local is awesome. I'm home every night, you know, and the pay is actually really good. So, and then of course I get to meet a lot of different people. So when I first went over to SAFER to sign up for the class, they, you know, they put me through a couple training courses. The training courses were just training on professionalism, and I want to say the other one was like customer service. And then they put me through a finance course, just, you know, to briefly show me how to manage my finances and stuff like that. And then after those were completed, they got me signed up with a truck driving school and like took care of the whole bill for me. And while I was in there, gave me a stipend. They helped me get back and forth to class. At the time, I didn't have a car. And so I was taking the bus and they were giving me the 7-day passes. So I would get the 7-day passes to be able to get back and forth, not only to work, but to class. So the days I was missing as far as with work for having to go to class, they gave me a weekly stipend just to help me make up for the time that I was missing at work. You know, and then of course the major thing was they paid for the class, which was tremendous because I doubt that I would be able to, you know, take the class, or it would took me a lot longer, you know, to get where I'm at now if they hadn't actually paid for the class. So Then they did a lot of communication with me during the time. The people that worked was Safer at the time that I was going through the class. And I can pretty much guarantee probably now it's the same way, but they were really on point with everything they did. They kept encouraging me, and like between having to work and go to class, you know, and try and make sure I can still take care of the bills that I had to take care of, the encouragement and everything else that comes along with it is key. So that really helped major. Safer, like they were there every step of the way. So
Absolutely incredible to hear from Charles, and a huge thank you to him for sharing his story as a directly impacted person, specifically about how Safer Foundation and REO overall has really helped him. So now we will turn to a moderated discussion with Jeff Korzenik, Victor Dickson, and Congressman Davis to talk a little bit about folks with criminal legal history and the importance of hiring them. All right, here we go. Well, thank you all for joining today, and thank you all for lending your insight into this very important issue and being here for the REO virtual introduction. My first question will go to you, Jeff. At times, the unemployment rate for people with criminal legal histories has been as high as 27%. Could you please describe for us the detrimental impacts that fail to employ people with criminal legal histories is having on the United States economy, and how it would strengthen the economy to bring individuals with criminal legal history into the labor market?
Sure, thank you. I think Congressman Davis expressed it well when he talked about this enormous lack of talent. But let me share what that means for the US economy. The potential growth of any economy is based on two, and really only two, pillars. How fast can you grow your workforce? How fast can you grow the productivity of your workforce? In the United States, we have a problem. We have in front of us a real challenge in growing our workforce. We continue to lose baby boomers. The millennial generation is mostly all in. It's the largest cohort within our labor force. But birth rates have been dropping since 1990. And so labor force growth is slowing. It means overall growth is slowing. And the answer lies within tapping the talents that already exist in our population that are underutilized. So when we look to the tens of millions of Americans who are either unemployed, out of the labor force, or employed below their potential, this is a tremendous cost to the US economy. We can measure the cost in a couple of ways. One way I like to think of it is that by bringing in millions of new workers, we extend the life of any economic cycle. We as an economy in the US add about $400 billion each year to our total GDP. When we can tap these talents that are out there among people who've been touched by the criminal justice system, bring them into the labor force, or give them greater ability to participate in the economy to their full potential, we add hundreds of billions of dollars to the economy. And we also save many tens of billions in saving costs of reincarceration and other costs associated with the justice system. It's gone from a social issue to, in addition to social and justice issues, it's an economic imperative.
Thanks so much for that, Jeff. That's very insightful. As a follow-up question to hiring folks with criminal legal history, this can go to both you and Victor. Can you all explain how employers benefit from hiring? You've explained a little bit about the generalities, but are there any specifics about specific industries, say for instance, technology or healthcare? Like how do they really benefit from hiring folks with criminal legal histories?
Victor, why don't you lead, and then I'll add commentary. So,
okay, well, thanks, Jeff. And Jeff, I want to thank you for raising this issue. Many businesses face the challenge that you've talked about. And I would say with beginning with manufacturing companies, we started to see them having a real shortage of workers and looking to develop talent pools with our clients. And we've seen that evolve into other industries. In our area, transportation, distribution, logistics is big. Before the pandemic, the hospitality industry and the food services industry were both having shortages of workers. Healthcare, Congressman Davis was a leader in our area of really opening up opportunities for people with records in the hospitals and the clinics in our area. We have the third largest concentration of hospitals in the country. And he led a meeting with executives of those hospitals. We found out that there were thousands of open healthcare jobs in the Chicago area alone. Now IT, we're just found working with the company now has about 120 open positions, very good paying jobs that they cannot fill. So we're seeing this demand in a lot of industries, and businesses are getting people who are prepared with the soft skills. They're getting people prepared because of REO with the hard skills, the industry recognized credentials and certifications. They're getting extremely loyal employees. There's research now that suggests that people with records tend to be much more stable and much more loyal, have longer tenure, generally have no issues with employment that have anything to do with their prior record. And so I think that businesses are finding this untapped talent pool, as Jeff has named his book, and they are benefiting greatly. You heard Charles. I mean, that company's got a guy who's excited about having this opportunity, looking to do more, and that's what companies are getting.
Yeah, I'll underscore what Victor said. Done right, when you have a process for working with organizations such as SAFER or many successful reentry organizations around the country, working to prepare people and help employers identify who's a good fit for their business, and then support it appropriately, which means understanding the kind of mentorship and onboarding that's required. Again, organizations like SAFER provide that kind of support, as do many other nonprofits. You get not just an adequate employee, not an employee of last resort, but all the evidence points to you get an employee who is exceptionally engaged in loyalty. And that engaged and loyal, and that translates into higher levels of productivity and higher levels of profitability. And one last point I've made is that I think the public's expectations of corporate America have changed. And both employees, particularly millennial generation employees, and consumers, customers of companies, expect the firms they do business with to help solve social ills. And it's hard to identify anything that is more consequential than giving people who've made a mistake, who are ready to pick themselves up and determined to show that they are more than their mistake, giving those people the opportunity to thrive, solve so many issues across our society.
Thank you for that, Jeff and Victor. And I really like that point right there, that people are more than their mistakes. I think that is very important to highlight. And so this next one goes towards Congressman Davis, if you can, and Victor. We of course know that many Black people and people of color are disproportionately impacted by the criminal legal system. These disparities persist as BIPOC folks return home from incarceration. How can programs such as REO help to address racial inequities?
Well, I think we're beginning to open up and talk about the history of our country in a different way than what we've been accustomed to. For example, we're taking a serious look now at policing and in our criminal justice system, how it emerged and what it emerged to do, the impact of slavery on it, containment. I mean, there are people who suggest that much of how we deal with criminal justice policing had to do with containment of individuals who were enslaved and incarcerated, which was a different kind of incarceration then. And so there has been the evolution of these same principles. So we obviously need to change our concept of policing. And also prevention is worth much more than a pound of fuel. And so if we can prevent individuals from ever reaching this point. And of course, we do that comprehensively. We do that in terms of providing a quality of life for individuals that takes them away from behavior that society says is out of compliance with rules, regulations, and expectations. So these discussions are becoming helpful. We know that disproportionately African American males have the highest percentages of criminal records. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of individuals have even minor records. The sentences have been a lifetime of misery, of poverty, of inability to access benefits and resources. We're trying to change many of those. We're finally going to get the Pell Grant back in circulation as a way of providing opportunity for people with criminal records, for people incarcerated to experience training and higher levels of education. So it entails many, many avenues, many approaches, but the best thing that we can do is create for individuals a job. The best program that I've ever encountered for people trying to re-enter is a decent paying job that they can feel good about and know that they are contributing to the well-being of society, that they are assets and not liability. That helps us all.
Thank you, Congressman Davis. And I think that I agree with that entirely. There is dignity in work. And we know that there is dignity in work, and that's the importance of this program. Victor, I don't know if you had a few remarks to give to that question as well.
You know, I think one of the things that we have to do as a society is really look at the fact that we have operated with an exclusionary economic system, one that deliberately kept people out and kept people from really, you know, having a fair opportunity economically. And then by forcing them basically into poverty, then we criminalize being poor. We criminalize the fact that they have fewer alternatives and will sometimes seek very desperate means to take care of themselves. And we criminalize and punish that. And then the record itself is Dr. Keisha Middlemass from Howard University describes a criminal conviction as a social disability, that it really follows a person for the rest of their life. And it prevents them from being able to do things that people without that disability can do in our society and in our economy. So I'm hoping that the time that we're in, that we will dismantle the system at its root, you know, get down to the root of it and change it permanently. I'm excited about what Congressman Davis is doing, excited about what Jeff is doing, raising this issue with the business community. They seem to be embracing it. You know, we just saw the Second Chance Business Coalition made an announcement, I believe today or yesterday. Big companies that are making this huge commitment to hire people with records. And so something's turning. I hope it's just not a fad, that we keep the momentum going. We don't ever go back to where we were. Where we were hurts everybody. We have to understand that nobody wins by criminalizing basic behaviors, by punishing people and keeping them down because of a record. Nobody benefits. Crime goes up, violence goes up, public benefit supports, taxpayers are paying money, excessive amounts of money to keep people in prison. Businesses don't have the workers they need. There's really hardly anybody that benefits from the system the way it was. and it needs to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I do see that we're running low on time, so I'll ask a final question if you all have any final thoughts about this very important topic. And I'll start with Jeff.
You know, there was an old paradigm that you're either tough on crime or you're soft on crime, and that's the wrong way to look at this. We should all be in favor of public safety and for people having opportunities. And I think when you view this challenge, our societal challenge, through that lens, you can come up with much more productive responses than the kind of system Victor and Congressman Davis outlined.
Thank you so much. Congressman Davis, any final
If we used one, I'll use another one. The Panthers had a motto that you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And so if individuals are helping to reduce recidivism or providing opportunities for individuals to move forward, then I say they are part of the solution and not part of the problem. We just need some more solutioners.
Yes, absolutely. And that is something that my mama taught me. So very, very good. And Victor, any final remarks?
Well, it's always hard to follow the wisdom of Congressman Davis, but I would say that we have to get beyond, as a society, our irrational fears. We have irrational fears about people being released from prison and jail, about what they might do. We have irrational fears about them being in the workplace, about what might happen. We have irrational fears about sharing economic opportunity, as if there's such a limit on money and scarcity in our world that really anybody's going to be hurt by sharing a little bit with other people. I would hope that people just get over those fears. And if they do, they'll realize there's great potential locked up inside of people, that if they just had an opportunity, they'll be great contributors to our communities and to our society. That's what we're trying to do. We're delighted to see this act pass and make this permanent, so we can really help not just them, but help ourselves have a better society to live in.
Well, thank you all so much for your remarks. And thank you all who are attending this virtual event. We are so excited to see the REO Act introduced. Once more, I would like to thank Senators Peters, Portman, Congressman Davis, and Congressman Johnson for introducing this very important piece of legislation. I will share some contact information in case anybody has any follow-up questions and would like to engage with any of us who have been here on this call. Thank you all again so much for your participation, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thanks.
Take care.